Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So today would be the last of a series of webinars that we have had on spirituality, or at least what I understood to be spirituality. From the next session onwards in April, we would be moving into systemic coaching. So a couple of things that I wanted to do in this session. One is Ramcharan is here. I'm trying to see who else is here from the batch who attended the Create Your Future session with me, which was Yatin, Narayan Shankar. I don't know whether he's here somewhere. I would like to promote them to Nita is here, right? Let me bring up Nita as a panelist, just for them to share briefly what the experiences was. Unfortunately, Magda is not able to attend today. But if, Ramcharan and Nita, if one of you have access to the participant list, and if you find any of the other participants who were with us, some of them non-Kocharya, like Venu, Shalini and Amit, or Narayan Shankar, Yatin, and so on. So just give me a, Yatin Samant is there, so I'm promoting him to panelist. So Yatin is out there. So we don't have Narayan Shankar. If Narayan shows up, then please just let me know. I'll add them to that. Okay, so very briefly, two things. And Vijay, by the same token, if you can just let me know if any of the others, like Rama and a couple of other people who had agreed to be today on the panel to ask me, by definition of Cindy, irreverent questions on my concept of mindlessness. I'll explain the background to you later. And some of them threaten to be there, so I'll certainly have them moved up here.
I'm online, Rama.
Oh, you are online, Rama. Yes, of course. Now let me see where you are in the. But how is it that I'm unable to see you in the?
I haven't put the video on because my bandwidth is a little.
Not your video, but your name is not coming up in the list unless you are masquerading under some other name. Yeah, it's not showing up. Vijay, can you figure out where Rama is?
Yeah, I can see Rama.
Okay, how come I can't see her? I don't know.
Just look in panelist, Ram. She's there.
Oh, she's in a panelist already. Okay. Sorry about that, Rama.
No problem.
I'm being rather dense today. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, okay. So we have at least three of you, Vijay, you, and Karen on the panel to ask me irreverent questions. Cindy's caught between some flight somewhere in Amsterdam or wherever she is stuck, so she is not able to join today. So we have two of them at least, Yatin and Ramcharan, and Nita. Nita, where are you? You are somewhere there, I guess. Yeah, she's there. Okay, so let's be brief. Let me start with this part first. We had this workshop, the one which we wanted to originally have in Tiruvannamalai, which is called the Create Your Future, which incorporated several of the concepts that I had earlier taken you through in terms of what is called the 65 back and cleansing the baggages that one carries through the chakra energization, so on. So I don't really want any of them to go through the process, but very, very briefly, if there was something at all that sort of you experienced that was something meaningful, which made a difference to you. Since Ramcharan and I have been working on this for a while, let me first start with Neeta and Yatin. Yatin, would you like to start first? Yatin, you are muted.
Yes, Ram. Can you repeat that? I've been having interruptions. I just reconnected.
Yeah, basically,
On and off.
your experience of the Create Your Future program that we did about 3 weeks ago or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I will.
Very brief,
Okay.
just about 2-3 minutes, and we have Narayan also on the panel. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. For those who were not on the program, the 3 objectives which we had the workshop. One was to remove the baggage. Second was to create a vision for self. And I took it overall, therefore, it's self-realization or self-discovery. So I think the advantage I had is I had on the objective number 1, I had some baggage in terms of guilt related to my father's death. So this one, first of all, helped me to bring it out, and I was happy that I could share. And as Ram said, I think once it's out, it lessened my load. So I feel lesser guilty or more more on that. And I'm glad I could share that. Second is in terms of creating a vision for a self for the future. I learned my experiences actually helped. Ram helped to feel it, to commit for more feeling than the logical, rational building blocks, because I come from that end. So I had created vision more logically. So session helped me to get more sense and feeling from self, and as to what will give me the most joy. And Ram helped us in clarify between the need and the greed. And that entire process of matching and the colleague helped me to reach and confirm what I think I want to see myself doing. So that was my second advantage. Third experience was in terms of both knowledge and feeling, in terms of the chakras, 7 chakras that you talked about, and the different meditations that we practice. I realized that the full realization happens with the practice currently, but it had knowledge and we had some realizations. I had lesser than some other people who are more evolved, but some realizations through the different meditations that we did. And gladly for me, different realization and different exercises seem to synchronize. So there was some coherence. So that gives me more reassurance in terms of the path I want to take. Anything else, Ram?
No, that's okay. I think let us keep it brief because
Hello?
a couple of other. Yeah, thanks, Yatin. We'll just move on to the others. I have here
yeah.
also. Yeah, thanks. I have Amit here, Narayan Shankar, Neeta, Venu is here. So let me start with 2 of the people who do not have any exposure to Kocharya from before. Between you and Amit and Venu, would you like to very briefly share with what is it that you took away from the program?
Sure. Hi, Ram.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, yeah, like you mentioned, this was the first time I was attending this kind of a seminar or a workshop, so to speak. And so it was in many ways some kind of revelation for me in terms of, my one of the biggest thing which I had was a fear. I don't know, a fear of what, but there was always this, lurking fear in either starting something in my work at the workplace, or if I had to take a decision, there was some fear that was stopping. So some of the exercises that we did, and you know what, Ram, after those 3 days, we had this that wonderful 3-day workshop. After that, I can feel that a lot of it has gone, especially after the cleansing exercises that we did. I can really feel that, so that was helpful. That was one. The biggest thing is, now the self-awareness bit has come in. I am more aware of what is happening, what is, whether it is the way I talk or I listen to somebody. There is a lot of awareness that has come into the picture. So I'm glad that some of the cleansing exercises help me overcome these aspects. So that is what I wanted to highlight over here. Having said that, this is one workshop which was the first time I'm doing this. I haven't done this earlier in my life, but it did help me in many ways overcome some of these like baggages that Yatin was talking about, baggages or stoppages or blockage that I can I can talk about.
Okay, thanks a lot, Venu.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Venu. Amit, what about you? Can you unmute yourself? Amit? Okay, if Amit is not ready, Narayan, can you step in? Yeah, sorry, Amit. Yeah, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was on mute actually.
Yeah.
So, Ram, as you're aware that I had distinct difficulties in terms of holding that vision of the future, and I discussed with you at the venue as to what possibly the fear of the unknown and many other things that we discussed. Now, so I would say that from that point and now a few weeks out, I don't think so there's any perceptible change there, but I'll tell you what is different from before. I guess as Venu was saying, that one of the things that I have now started to become, what are the changes that I've started to become a lot more aware of what I'm doing. So let's say there is a communication I'm having with somebody else, and whether that's good or bad or whatever it is, appropriate or not, I think that I was able to sort of gauge that after a certain time, maybe a few hours or something like that. Now it almost happens, I wouldn't say instantaneously, but it's almost like I'm separating from myself and becoming another being, looking at myself, having that interaction or that communication, and almost talking to myself about what it should be, what is correct, how does it sink in with my being. I think that has really helped me. So I'm almost the introspection that I was possibly doing maybe after some, it's almost becoming real time for me. So I think that is really a tangible benefit. So the honest answer is I've not been able to sit down and so practice the good things that you taught us. I definitely want to do that, but I really want to do it in stages. So I want to build this self-awareness, and I want to then bring the practice to sort of make sure this is sustained and it enhances.
Thanks, Amit. Anyway, we will be having follow-up calls with all of you, and so we'll take this up in detail later. Narayan, and then after that, Neeta, please. Yeah, and then Ramcharan finally. Yeah.
Sure. So Ram, okay, this was a very beautiful experience. I did that 3 days, and just 2 or 3 highlights for me, and those were my critical highlights, and those were the entire cleansing process, which may and post all these 3 days, it has become much more lighter for me in terms of viewing things and how I am looking at my own self. And there is a lot of lightness. There is a lot of contentment, I would say, and that's coming up very strongly. And especially I like the conversations. I mean, one was the part that we did with the cleansing, but also the deep conversations we all shared at whatever levels we were, but we had such a deep connect for those 3 days. So both of these together for me are critical takeaways from that workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Neeta?
Yeah, so Ram, for me, I will probably look at it as a this might sound weird, but I've been exploring spirituality for some time and studying the Upanishads. So for me, it is a clear reassurance that whatever I'm learning there can manifest in a practical way. And that for me was very, very, very powerful. And like Narayan said, the conversations around it were so enlightening for me. So that's the biggest takeaway for me. The second thing is, it was meant for cleansing, and therefore a lot of cleansing happened. I'm more aware of the way I react or I respond or the way I behave. I can almost feel my triggers while I'm having a conversation. And this hasn't happened before. So for me, this is absolutely powerful, almost cathartic. And also what I understood was the deep body-mind sense connect, and how this can be used in my daily life, how I can also use it in my coaching practice, because awareness is what it's all about. And therefore, that connect for me through the chakras was very, very powerful. And I'm able to actually feel it when I'm having a conversation or any of the situations that I face in life. And the last, of course, was the connects that we made during the retreat itself, which were very powerful. Yeah, these were the takeaways for me.
Thanks a lot, Neeta. Yeah, Ramcharan?
Yeah, hi. I mean, it was a really enriching weekend in a lot of ways. And the fact that we've been working on this for so long, to just see it come to fruition and experience it was really fulfilling. I think personally, a couple of insights I took away were that, one was with the clearing of traumas that initially, right after this, when I went into, visualizing my future, suddenly it had a very different quality. That it was much less grandiose. And the sense was that I had been unconsciously compensating for some sense of a trauma or trying to avoid it or heal it. And without that kind of energetic fulcrum in my consciousness, I was free to just imagine a much more easy, somewhat relaxed, and very deeply comfortable future. One that doesn't seem so far removed from where I am now. So that the fact that I feel like I'm stepping right into it, that was a shift. As far as other shifts, it's a little hard to say. I came right back to Tiruvannamalai, and I've been in that, the energy field of this place, so it's hard to say what's what. But I can certainly put my finger on that as being a clear shift that happened during the retreat.
Okay, thanks, Ramcharan. Yeah, I mean, as a general summing up, I don't want to go too deep into it. If you have any questions, ask. We'll try and answer it as we go along. One is, of course, this is one part of a larger program. We had 2 sessions before, and they will have another 2 sessions later, and maybe as long as it's needed for the individuals. It's an experiential shift that happens, so it's very, very difficult to put it in words. And also, it isn't like Amit clearly said, in the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's not as if a great miracle has happened, but what happens is really something starts shifting in you, and it makes, over a period of time, a huge change in the way we think, feel, and act. For me, there were a couple of takeaways. One was, in a certain sense, intended and anticipated. Another one, unintended and unanticipated, as it were. The first was, this is a process that I had not done since the time I actually became a coach, and certainly not done with other people who are coaches. In the past, it is part of my spiritual journey. I had worked with thousands of people in this program, in this process. I had very briefly covered it in certain parts of the programs that I trained people in when I was doing it directly, and also with some people whom I was coaching. But the whole purpose here was, can I work with coaches, professionals, and eventually pass on this knowledge, and so that they themselves can become practitioners in this. And that's the whole idea. So it's not only the change that they are finding in themselves, but as they practice it more and more, and I'm quite happy to work with them independently, individually, to take them to that space, and which is what we really want to create, a community of people to whom this becomes an additional skill. And I'm hoping that would happen. The unintended, unanticipated, in a sense, is something I really would invite all of you to join our colloquium next week with Bhaskar from Anita's batch, as well as Ujjwal and John on Autoshama and Theory U. Having set them up for it, I had to necessarily go through the entire book, which I hadn't done before, and which I'm doing with great amount of difficulty, because Autoshama's book is such that every page that I start on, I seem to go into some kind of a meditation. So I'm not struggling through it. I enjoy struggling through it because it's so powerful, so intense. And I also started doing the MOOC programs, which are available free. All that you have to do is to go to the Autoshama website and programs, and there's MIT Labs, MOOC, massive online open programs, courses, and they are free. And at least my request to all of you is, who are present today, and tell other people if you can, go through what they call the ULab 0. And then after that, you can join the ULab 1, which would start sometime in September, but for which the archive material is available. Where these two connected for me was this. The whole ULab concept is not about individual. There is a lot about the individual. There's a lot about individual consciousness, but the deeper space in which we operate is not individual, but it's collective. So how do you shift from the individual to collective is the entire purpose of the book, as I take away from it. And the 1X program is all about that. There's only one part of it, which is like Autoshama sharing, and there are some live sessions, etc. But there are groups of people who are going to work on it together as hubs and groups and so on and so forth, with some common objectives or objectives that each group can define for itself. So one of the things that I would ideally like to do is, as coaches, what is it that we can do to create leadership, and what I call as a barefoot leadership, which is not with corporate leaders and so on and so forth, but everybody around us, young people, students, housewives, maybe whoever, and they all have this leadership potential within them. And what is the way that we can do to create that leadership, which leads to a sustainable future? The beautiful thing that Autoshama talks about is, can you visualize the emerging future rather than trying to relate it to the past? Forget the past. Can you just look at the future for what it is? So in a sense, it's a negation of the GROW model. It's not about the reality when you look at the GROW model, the G. Can I divorce myself, irrespective of what reality I am in, however disempowered I may be, however difficult may be my current reality? Can I believe in that ultimate potential that I have, the emerging future, and start working towards it? What is it that needs to happen? What is it that needs to happen individually, and what is it that needs to happen collectively? I think this has something to do with a discussion that I'm hoping that would follow when we talk about mindlessness. And that to me was extremely powerful, Ramcharan has already put it up there, Otto Scharmer Theory U. But if you go to that Otto Scharmer's webpage, there is a particular link, which is, what do you call it, one of those subgroups, which is about programs, and within the program, there is something called MIT Lab. And one of you can probably pull it up while you are at it, and then can post that as well. So go through it. Again, I don't want to expand on it. I don't want to steal the thunder of these three people who have done tremendous amount of work putting it together. It started as talking about Otto Scharmer's generative listening. I think it's gone to something far, far deeper. I suddenly found that Ujjwal is already certified in the ULab 1X. He has completed it and he has got certified. So he's quite capable of leading people through it. John has been doing some work on it. Bhaskar was the one who initiated it. So I'm really hoping that we would move into something really powerful. To me, it's an emerging future. I'll leave it at that. So now, if there are any questions from you in terms of what other people shared on Create Your Future, please put them on chat. We will answer them as we go along. But now I'm really looking to all the people out there, even those who are in the Create Your Future program. I did talk about a little bit about mindlessness. What is it about mindlessness? And Rama and Vijay are there with a specific charter that was given to them by Cindy to ask me irreverent and difficult questions. And it came about like this. Somebody wrote a mail to Cindy and said, I see on the website that you have talked a lot about mindlessness. Would you like to come and speak on this? So Cindy sends it to me and says, is it for you or is it for me? Because it was copied to me as well, because it came in our contact box. So I said, it's very clearly addressed to you, but the fact that it's talking about mindlessness, perhaps it's for me, I'm not quite sure. So her response to that was, she said, you think you're the only person who can talk about mindlessness? Touché. So, which is why we said today, unfortunately, Cindy is not here because she is caught between some flights, but at least her able disciples, Vijay and Rama are both here. And maybe some of you others can join that as well. Karen is here, all from our MCC Mastery Class batches. So yeah, let's have fun. Come on, guys.
I wanted to say, Ram, you're able disciples too.
Okay, so. I know. Here. I'm bringing the duality part of it into account. Okay.
Okay. So I have one or two questions, and if come on, Karen, okay, I can.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
So I've heard you speak about mindlessness, Ram, and I've been, and to be very honest, I think it's the first time I've heard anyone speak with so much of passion about it. I think I have been more, aware of mindfulness, because that is something that, is a very hot topic. I think it gets talked about in a wellness context and an organizational context and all of that, but not so much mindlessness. That being said, I think I experienced a very strong dimension of it, or at least my own understanding of the way it is in the mastery program. We never spoke about it, but I think it manifested in beautiful ways, and almost like a prerequisite at some levels to be, as Cindy says, in a heart space. Now, my first question to you is, going back to, let's say, the ICF competencies, which is something that most coaches can relate to. I think practicing coaches as well as coaches in training. I find the competencies on a very plain reading more sort of aligned to mindfulness, because if you take competencies like presence, active listening, just the verbs used there, right? Very much talk about being in a mindful state. So where does the concept of mindlessness manifest itself in the PCC marker? That's the first thing that I have sort of been struggling with explaining to others, where mindlessness features.
Okay. Do any of you, Rama, Karen, do you want to add to that? Or any other comments? Then I can try and answer them together.
No, not on this, Ram. I mean, you and I met yesterday, so, and we had talked about some of it yesterday. So I'll continue on this after you answer Vijay's point on the competencies. Yeah.
Karen?
I don't have anything to add to Vijay's question on where they are in the competencies, but I'll add something probably to your answer.
Okay. Vijay, very simply, at the PCC marker level, I don't think you will find any reference to mindlessness, because unfortunately, ICF is far too mindful at this point in time. That's a problem. But then when you come to the mastery level, there are several things that need to happen in terms of, or even if you look at it from a PCC marker level, at some point in time, it may be about non-judgmental and so on and so forth. And those could probably refer to mindlessness. Now, let me put it this way. I talked to several people over a period of time on why they practice mindfulness. I'm talking about mindful practitioners who really were committed to mindfulness, and they were doing that. And as I talked to them, one of the things that came up was their expectations were not fully fulfilled. And so I was trying to go deeper into it. What they said was that if we really wanted to get rid of stress, and we got into mindfulness practice. So I said, what do you mean by getting rid of stress? How would that manifest itself? Being a typical coach, asking them, what is the CC 2.2, as it were? What is the measure of success? What is that is going to indicate? Eventually, it sort of came up as, I would like to have a peace of mind. I would like my mind to be still. And that is not happening. And I was not surprised, because this is something that I had experienced myself, and that's the reason why I went deep into mindfulness and other practices as well. In a simple way, let me put it this way. Practicing mindfulness and expecting to have a still mind is something like expecting, putting your car engine is running, and you put it into gear, and you expect that the car will not move. The car will be still. And that will give you a very powerful metaphor. The mind is like the car with the engine running. And mindfulness is like putting into gear, because mindfulness is pretty much about sensory inputs into the mind. It is about, you take the 101 experiment that mindfulness teaches about taking a raisin, looking at it, touching it, feeling it, and smelling it perhaps, and putting it into your mouth, savoring it, and so on and so forth. Each one of them is a sensory experiment. It is a sensory experience. And one of the sessions that I had with a mindful practitioner who was teaching all this was, I said, but then I find one sensory experience missing. And she was curious. I said, I haven't been able to listen to the raisin talk. That's the only one that is missing. I don't think that joke went very well. But the point is, when you engage your senses, you are engaging the mind, you are engaging your memories. Because the reason why you react or respond to the sensory experience is because of the conditioned experiences that you have. For example, people talk about, as part of mindfulness exercises, oh, just think about, you open your fridge and you pull out this lime and you cut it up, and then it's a juicy lime. And as you cut it, do you feel that you are salivating? Of course you are. You are like a Pavlov's dog. And the dog responded to a bell. And here you are responding to a cut line. And that is really what happens. There's nothing great about it. It doesn't prove anything at all, in my opinion. So this is the whole problem with mindfulness, where, yes, you are creating an awareness at a point in time where it's about a sensory awareness of what you're doing, which is better than not having any awareness at all. No question about it. But like Vivekananda and others have said, mindfulness is a great state to start with, but not a great state to end with. He talked about religion and so on in that context. So when we talk about, first of all, to give you a bit of a background into mindfulness, the word was coined by a British, I don't know what he was, a guy wrote a book about the Buddhist religion. He called himself an expert in the Pali language, and he translated a word called sati in Pali, which Buddha used, which is called smriti in Sanskrit, which meant memory, as mindfulness. And the context was completely different in Buddha's term, as well as in the Sanskrit Upanishads term. Memory is a bad word, because memory, like Freud and Jung talked about, is part of the lower half of the iceberg. It's full of pretty much limiting beliefs and all kinds of that kind of stuff. So when we talk about mindfulness, this is really what comes up. What Buddha meant when he talked about sati as one of the 8 noble paths, as it were, was about the right memory, which is no memory at all. How do you disengage from the memory? And that is what is called as a 4th state of awareness in the Upanishads. And in that 4th state of awareness, you are actually disengaging from your memories. And that's a process, in a sense, is parallel to what others talked about in the Create Your Future program that we did. Part of it was to cleanse the memory so that when you now look at yourself, when you deal with somebody else, there's a lot less of that reactive, instinctive element that is coming, but much more of a deep, intuitive, responsive element that is coming in, because the mind is disengaged. And that is a state in Zen that is called the no mind. And the no mind state is what I believe should be the primary space in which a coach should be, because that is a space in which you are present. To coming back to Vijay's question after a long explanation, the quality of presence that ICF talks about, it may not be there in the PCC markers, but in the overall competency model, if you look at it, the presence is a non-judgmental space. It's a space where the coach has no agenda. It's a space where the coach has to have unconditional positive regard for the client. It's a space where the coach has to be in generative visioning and generative listening of the client. It's a space where the coach is absent, and which is why we talk about presence being absent. And it's a space where the coach is completely aware of what is happening. And that state of awareness is not mindful awareness, it's mindless awareness. So that is where I would like to stop at this point in time. There's a question there from Vinita. If one understands that mind is just an active cell who interprets the service of observation and learn how to use it as a tool, there is no need of words, mindful. Yeah, sure. I mean, everything is semantics, ultimately. But the trouble is that when we talk about mindfulness, and that leads into meditation, then you have a serious problem. Because you are engaging the mind rather than disengaging the mind. So it is no longer semantic. It is not just a whole set of active cells who are doing whatever it is, but those active cells are guided by some kind of intelligence from within. Whether that intelligence is really instinct or intelligence or intuition is your choice. It is not something that is destiny. It is a choice that you make. When you disengage, you make a different choice than when you engage. So that is where it makes a difference. Ashok Iyer, in terms of subconscious mind and conscious mind, what is mindlessness? Does it refer to emotions arising from the heart, etc.? No. You disengage from all those, whether love, compassion, and all that stuff. You are aware. It is like the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is if you find somebody grieving and you also go cry along with them, and you might want to call it love, you might want to call it compassion, but there is neither compassion nor love in it. You are just crying because you feel tomorrow I may be in that position. Whereas in empathy, you understand what the other person is feeling and you try and do something objectively, standing outside, can I help in some way? And that is a state of mindlessness, that's a state of no mind, and that's a state of void that Buddha talked about. Isn't mindfulness being engaged in listening to client? Anyway, there are multiple things there. Any question, Rama, you wanted to follow with something else, Karen? Yeah.
I just request you, I mean, I think some of these questions may also be answered. If you could give an example between what you beautifully said as mindful awareness and mindless awareness. If it's possible for you to share, that would be great.
Yeah, it is simply like, for example, if you find somebody grieving, somebody has lost a loved one and the person is crying, your mindful awareness would be take that into cognizance and you sensorily respond to it or react to it. So you might hug that person, you might cry along with that person. That's what you genuinely may think is the right thing to do. I think that's a mindful way of doing things. But unfortunately, several experiments have been done, and these are available, which has proved that this is dangerous because it anchors that deep within the other person who is grieving. And 2 years later, if you meet that person from out of nowhere and then you hug them, they would start crying again. It doesn't help them. It brings back those old memories back. So mindfulness is about memory. That's what that word means. Whereas in mindlessness, if I find somebody grieving, yes, I completely empathize with them. And at that point in time, maybe what I would choose to do is just be silent. And maybe try and have my energy commune with them rather than do anything in terms of communication. You don't need that. Just try it. This is why very often I tell you people that when you are coaching, during the period of silence, just see whether you can enlarge your energy space to cover the other person. And you would find some remarkable results which are coming out of that. The mindless space is one where the mind and body, the matter disappears. And that is the Kocharya logo, the zero of the mind and body. And the infinity is energy. So essentially, when you are moving from mindfulness, which is matter, mind and body and senses, you are moving into a space which is totally energy. And this is experiential. So that is where the difficulty in terms of grasping what it is.
Ram, I would like to add to your comment in terms of a visual. And because I think we all initially grapple, particularly if we're coming from the West, where mindfulness is the buzzword, and industry and coaching has a lot of nomenclature around mindfulness. But the way that I think of it is when, and this is the visual, when a toddler is trying to stand up or to take steps, initially they are probably mindless until they become determined that they're going to stand up and maybe take a few steps. And then they really focus. They're very aware. To your point, their senses are all engaged. They get reinforcement, particularly if other children or adults are around, because we're so happy to see them take that step. And their initial steps are extremely mindful. They almost walk like a Frankenstein monster because they are so focused. But after they've done it for a while, it's mindless because they don't need to focus on it anymore. They know how to do it. And as adults, as adults who are ambulatory, we don't think about it. We get up and walk wherever we are. The older we get, and if we're infirmed or we've had surgery, we become very mindful again, using all of our senses to balance, to get steady on our feet in the same way that an infant would. But we have a lot more experience. And so when I think of mindlessness, the way I think of it is, you have to move through mindfulness to get to mindlessness. It is a continuum. I didn't know that before I met you. So it was meeting you that helped me understand. And I won't say that I accepted it. I had to work through it like everybody else. But I agree that the mindlessness is being non-judgmental and being totally open. And in some respects, not concerned or aware. You have to have awareness initially, but you don't stop there to really master mindlessness.
Absolutely, Karen. I think it's brilliant. Now I can leave the class to you to run the rest of the session. Now, honestly, I couldn't have put it better myself. No way. It's a beautiful example. It's absolutely right. And Yatin has pointed out somewhere, is it the movement into the unconscious competence? Yes, it is. And that's exactly what you're talking about. You are in the zone. It's, in a way, somebody asked about the car metaphor. For example, another metaphor, just following your lead, Karen, is when you start driving, for example, and especially if you are trying to start learning from a car which has a, what do you call it, a gear to shift, a stick to shift, and you don't know how to coordinate between your clutch and your gear and so on and so forth, the car would keep stalling. And then over a period of time, you coordinate and you start driving, and you don't think about any of that anymore. And you are sitting in the car, start the car, and you sort of become aware that you've reached your destination. You are in the zone, you are in a flow, you are in a peak experience, or whatever word that you want to use. These are all mindless experiences. They are not mindful experiences. If you are mindful, you would be worried about every single person who's on the road when you are driving in the car. And that is what a learner would. And it's beautiful, Karen, the way you said it. It's really the difference between a learner and a master. And yes, absolutely, that mindful beginning is essential for you to become aware of your mind and body. So just to give you another example, in Vipassana, which I consider to be one of the most powerful meditations, and which is very clearly based on Yoga Nidra, which is what I took many of them through during the Create Your Future, which is they are both coming from the same origin. You create an awareness of the body and the mind, and then you move out of the awareness of the body and the mind into something which transcends the mind and the body. It's about the energy state, and it's something that can be learned. And yesterday when Rama was here with me and Pradeep, I said it is easy, and both of them reacted saying, how the hell can you say it is easy? For you it is easy, your practice is full on. No. For many people I teach, in 45 minutes you can learn what needs to be done on that. And then you just practice, and it's like anything else, it is your practice which makes you come into that space of mastery. So I think pretty much, yeah, inspirational leaders, someone asked Debrata, you are right. Many inspirational leaders, they effortlessly go into it. Part of the reason I believe, and I'm being a little bit cognitive here, is that they have a huge meta goal, which is not about them. It's about a collective conscious that they are trying to inspire people into. And when you are in that state, you automatically inspire people, and therefore they get into that state of flow. So, which is actually in theory, this is what Otto Scharmer says. One of the key requirements of going into this is in that collective consciousness state, which is a kind of a mirror image of the collective unconscious of Jung, but I don't want to go into it, it's too deep. Ramcharan says mindfulness of sympathetic state, we are very much aware of self. Absolutely right, Ramcharan. The mindful state is a dualist state. You are separating the subject and the object and the experience. But in a mindless state, they almost as if they come together. You are no longer the actor, you are just witnessing what is happening. And therefore, what is happening, what is you, and everything is together. I'm not saying that is the ultimate Advaita, the Vedantic state, but all these things come together. So yeah, Rama, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm taking my part of continuing from yesterday, being irreverent here, and I want to challenge you that you calling it mindlessness, whereas a lot of people, the same thing that you say, my mind is in many circles understood as mindfulness. I Googled, and I'm on Psychology Today's page, and it talks about, in general, I'm quoting, a mindful state of consciousness is characterized by awareness turned inward toward present felt experience. It's passive, though alert, open, curious, and exploratory. It seeks to simply be aware of what it is, as opposed to attempting to do or confirm anything. Thus, it's an expression of non-doing or non-efforting, where one self-consciously suspends agendas, judgments, and normal common understanding. So in so doing, one can easily lose track of space and time, like a child at play who becomes totally engaged in the activity before her. So which is what I was talking yesterday to you about, being in the flow. So,
Yeah.
And when you look at, again, a dictionary explanation of mindlessness, it is about, somebody doing it without thinking, without any conscious, and something which is not helpful at all. So
Yeah.
I'm just questioning you, are you just trying to coin a new thing here, which other people understand as mindfulness?
Well, if everybody understood mindfulness the way that you read out just now, which is in some senses the way that Otto Scharmer interprets it, that would be perfect. But I'm looking at the origin of the word mindfulness, which is today interpreted also by many people as a sensory experience, and they get caught in it. If somebody goes to the mindless experience, which is a no-mind experience of Zen, it's not that the mindless is a new word. The dictionary meaning of mindlessness, yeah, fair enough, it's okay. But you talked about not doing. The Taoist Zen word for that is wu wei, which is effortless doing, which arises, and very similar to the Bhagavad Gita's explanation of doing without thinking about end in view. And it becomes effortless because you're not bothered about where you wish to reach. But then the wu wei is followed with something called wu xian, which is about the no mind, which is a void that Buddha talked about. So I guess it's ultimately like what Lewis Carroll in his book Looking Glass, I think Humpty Dumpty or somebody says, any word that I say, it means what I say. Sure, that's perfectly fine. But I'm looking at the way that today Thich Nhat Hanh has interpreted mindfulness based on the original definition of mindfulness. And people like Jon Kabat-Zinn and others have framed experiments on it for stress reduction and so on. And they are not exactly the definition that you read out. If that is what the definition is, fair enough, that's okay. But then you might as well use the word mindlessness for it. So why bother? And you can keep mindfulness as a separate bucket, which is about mind-body awareness, which is really what everybody interprets it to be.
Hi, Ram. I haven't talked to you in a while, but I would push back a little because I don't think because even in the comments, Paul said, are they two sides of the same coin? I don't think so. I think that it's a sequential process. I think it's a flow. I think one gives way to the other. And they're not two sides of the same coin. They are not the same. That's in my mind.
I would agree with you. But yeah, I mean, the wonderful thing about it is one can always argue. Ultimately, you experience something. And is this my experience? What does that mean? So I am really going by what, let's say, the ancient wisdom is, what Buddha has said as a void, or the Zen calls it the no mind, which is Wu Xian, Wu Wei, and so on, or what the Mandukya Upanishad calls as the fourth state of awareness. And they clearly use this word, that we are the mind, we are beyond the mind than the body. The mind is not, in fact, there is a famous Zen story about this guy pouring tea to the professor, and when the tea or the cup overflows, and the Zen master tells the guy that your mind is full, and when you empty the mind, you'll start becoming aware. So we can use semantics whichever way that we want, but I think so long as we are aware, what are the end experiences?
Yeah.
Whether you call it mindful, mindless, mind half empty, half full, doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
But as Karen said, it's clearly a sequential path where you create mind and body awareness and move beyond that into a state beyond that mind body awareness where there is only energy awareness. I wish there's a better word to describe that.
Ram, I want to add on another dimension, not to cause more confusion, but because this is something that I remember from Fiona's session many months back, where we spoke about heartfulness. And whatever Fiona spoke about in that context was very similar to what is being articulated today. So where does that fit in? Is it just semantics, or is there a different dimension?
No, what Fiona talked about is really the mindless state, because she talked about transpersonal, which is what Whitmore talks about in his last edition of Coaching for Performance in the last few chapters, where the transpersonal is basically you are going beyond my needs, beyond my mind, and beyond my whatever, matter, heart. So when she talked about the heart, she talked in a completely different sense. She talked about the heart as a spirit, as an energy. She didn't talk about the heart as an organ. So if that is what you want to talk about, absolutely, it is mindlessness, because it goes beyond. All we are saying when we talk about mindlessness is this, that someone talked about, I think Yatin or somebody, about Newtonian gravity, etc., etc. It's a difference between the Newtonian and the Einsteinian theory, between the Newton physics and the quantum physics. In quantum physics, none of us matter, because at the end of the day, if you split ourselves into, we are made of molecules, we are made of atoms, and if you look at inside electrons and protons, we are empty. And yet, we see each other, even on a stupid video. And we bump into each other, it hurts. But the fact is, 99.9999% of us is empty. So you can get into those kind of really philosophical explanations and try and see, what is it about? So maybe there's another word for it, I don't know. Mindlessness, Rama is right to some extent. I really wanted to make fun of people, to be honest. And I got a lot of fun out of it. Oh, mindlessness, you are crazy. I said, sure, I'm crazy. That's what the dictionary says. But unfortunately, there were people before, 5,000 years ago and 3,000 years ago, like the Buddhas and the Upanishad rishis, who talked about it as well. Maybe they were not so crazy. So essentially, look at it only purely from this perspective. Are we moving away from a blind adherence to matter, which is the Rene Descartes kind of philosophy? I think and therefore I am. Whereas the basic Hindu-Buddhist philosophy is, when I stop thinking, I am. And that is when I really become my energy state, my true state, my authentic state. With someone like Otto Scharmer, today he's coming back to that philosophy. The theory U is really an inversion, which is going back into that state, looking through a mirror, as he says, turning the camera in. Watch that theory, the U-Lab Zero video. There is a particular shot about the astronauts. He says when they were traveling to the moon, somebody not so much by mistake, but just wanted to create a diversion, they turned the camera instead of to the moon to the Earth. And they show the beautiful shots of the Earth, where one of the things that one of the astronauts was there, he says, look at the thin layer. There's a layer which is on top of the Earth, the circle, the sphere. That is what protects us. And without that layer, we would all be burned to cinders, as it were. The ultraviolet rays would destroy us. That layer is thin, and that makes a difference. And that is how fragile our living is in this world. But at the same time, there is immense potential with what we can do with it. which is the energy, which is created. So there are multiple dimensions. All I want to do is to expand your mind and don't get stuck with one point of view, that this is what it is. Ultimately, matter is energy. We can only deal with matter. The question is, can we also not deal with energy? Is there a way that you can find that you can deal with energy? And you'll find the answer is yes. And when you reach that stage, when you can deal with energy, you'll find you can be a far better human being and also a far better coach as well. I just leave that with you. Yeah. So any other, we are almost there on the, I'm quite happy to continue for a few more minutes if there are any questions on this. Yeah.
No, Rama here. Thanks, Ram. I think for me, it is that it has to be something which has to be sensed. And I feel I'm saying the same when I'm saying mindful, as in being the flow, in the flow. And Vipassana, as you know, I mean, for me as well, is an amazing meditation form which helped me to understand what that is. So I believe you're talking the same thing, but maybe using different words is what I'm saying.
Like, not quite, Rama. See, in Vipassana, since you've experienced it, the first 3 days you are in breath awareness, and then next few days you are in body awareness. And then you come to a point where you lose awareness of the mind and the body. And that is not a mindful state. The first 4 days and the state that you were in the body, those were the mindful states, irrespective of what somebody else says. Trust your own experience. What is the difference that you saw? Which would you call as a mindful experience? Not because that you found this explanation in a dictionary or a psychology magazine or somebody else said that. What is your own experience? Trust that. I learned the difference only that way. I experienced something very clearly different when I watched my breath and when I watched my body, and suddenly I moved into a space where neither seemed to matter. That's all I request you to do.
I completely agree with you. And Vipassana is about experiencing, right? It is about not being cerebral, because theoretically we all can understand. We've all now talked about what does this mean? Does it moving to unconscious competence, for example? You know, it is all possible to talk theoretically and cerebrally about it. But Vipassana is about experiential. And that is what the matter for me is about, moving from observing your body and your breath to actually being completely in the moment, in just getting those experiences and being so amazingly, in one sense, focused, but you're not conscious of being that, just being awareness. So,
so the question I would like you to ask is, in that state, was I still being aware of my breath and my body?
No, not really. But that's what I'm saying, that you're saying I'm calling that being, entering that state as being mindful. And that's what I learned to be that. And here you're going from here, moving from, you're minding this to saying, no, this is not that. I'm moving into mindlessness. So I'm just saying it's semantics for me.
Okay, fair enough. That's okay, as long as you had the experience. And so instead of that, we can use this word like matter state to energy state, for example.
Yeah.
Which might, so we can talk about a mind matter state to a mind energy state, perhaps, or something of that sort. Whichever way, but at the end of the day, what we all need to have is not be serious. We need to have fun as well, because that is all that matters at the end of the day in this world.
Which is, always happy to do that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that is the irreverence part of it. Okay. Thanks, guys. So, I mean, just to let you know that please do try and attend the colloquium next week. I think we'll try and take you into a very modern 21st century concept which resonates with the spirituality that we talked about. And I really would like many of you to go back into the Theory U MIT lab kind of stuff and become involved. I'm hoping that we would be able to initiate a movement within Kocharya, through Kocharya, to other people. That would be next week. And from the next month, we will be going into systemic coaching. And I'm hoping that at some point in time during the year, I'm in discussion with Peter Hawkins to try and see if he would initiate a webinar series on systemic coaching. It would be fee-based, but still, someone like him coming and doing that would be an amazing shift in terms of the coaching needs that we have. Thanks a lot. Take care, all of you. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.